Go. Okay, so I'm very excited to be chatting with Amanda Sleeman today. She is owner of the Coffs Neurophysio PD Warrior license up in Coffs Harbour in Australia. And Amanda is really well known to me because we used to work together down here in Sydney. So I know a lot about what you have been up to, your philosophy, your exercise approach, and I'm totally stoked to be chatting with you about how you've taken PD Warrior and launched it up in Coffs Harbour, because I know you're touching so many people's lives and just making such a big difference up there. So I guess my first question to you, Amanda, is how did you get into physio in the first place?
How to get into physio? So on a bit of a whim, actually. I didn't quite know what I wanted to do after I finished school. I did pretty well. I worked pretty hard at school. And I remember actually the night before we had to decide what we were going to choose. I sat down with my mum and we were looking at all the different topics, and I found physio and I was like, oh yeah, that sounds all right. Like, I like learning about the human body and all of that. And so I went with physio, and it actually wasn't until we did the neuro subject that I fully fell in love with physio. And ever since then, I've just been chasing neuro left, right and centre, including chasing you, Mel. When I was wanting that job, I found out about ARC a while ago. And I saw some of the amazing things that you guys were doing down there, including, and it was fairly early stages of PD Warrior at that stage, but including PD Warrior. And I just said, I've got to have that job. I've got to work there. And I chased, finally caved. And yeah, so I became part of the team then down there. And it's been an amazing experience down there. And as much as I loved it down there, home is where the heart is. So, yeah, I knew what we were doing down there was amazing. And I knew that people up here were missing out on the opportunity to be part of some of those programs like PD Warrior. So I unfortunately had to leave kicking and screaming and came up here to start Coffs Neurophysio, which I've been here for 2 years. So
and it was our huge loss to lose you from one of our, highly skilled team members down here. You were part of the family, but definitely to the benefit of the community up in Coffs. So you've taken PD Warrior, you're licensing it up in Coffs. How did you go about getting it started in Coffs?
So this was actually the day before NDIS, and so Parkinson's, like, as you know, was one of my favourites down in Sydney. So I had a lot of clients that I saw in Sydney, particularly with PD Warrior. I was very confident with it. So it was kind of the first area that I launched into when I moved up here. There's a really great Parkinson's community up here. We've got an excellent Parkinson's nurse. So part of it was getting to know some of the Parkinson's community, going to the support groups. They've got a younger person support group here, which made it even easier to sort of, educate people about PD Warrior. And as soon as I started taking, I did a lot of talks while I was up here to both support groups. I talked to a lot of the GPs in town. So the lady that I work alongside was able to get me into using her links with GPs to get doing a presentation to a lot of those. And from there, it just grew and grew. And yeah, I just got PD Warrior out there. We've now got 2 groups that we run a week, both of which are quite full. I'm probably going to have to open up another one. And we've got a lot of, obviously, one-to-one sessions that we see people with Parkinson's through PD Warrior. So yeah, it was just getting the word out there. And as soon as people hear me talk, or hear you talk, or hear anyone talk about PD Warrior, they get so excited. So even the neurologist in town, he sends people left, right and centre to us. So he's a great advocate for what we do. So yeah, it actually just snowballed.
It sounds like it, but I think part of it comes back to your passion. You obviously speak with a huge amount of passion. You're a very strong supporter of the program. What is it that you think motivates and inspires and excites people when you're talking to them? What is it that's different about the PD Warrior in your perspective?
Yeah, well, I think the same thing as what I feel that I'm so passionate about it for, which, I think I'm certainly someone who, and I think I just grew up this way, but someone who always likes to see the bright side, who sees the positives in things. And whilst, you know, there certainly needs to be a level of grievance and a level of people accepting a diagnosis of Parkinson's, I think once that is overcome, PD Warrior gives people hope and, you know, hope that there's life after diagnosis, and that we know there certainly is. We know that people see even improvement in their outcome measures being physical or quality of life outcome measures. And so once people start to see, I always love that very first session with someone who's fairly newly diagnosed with Parkinson's, where you show them how much, you know, they come in so lacking confidence and, you know, it's doom and gloom that they've had this diagnosis. You show them that how much effort and how much power they can put into even just one movement, and the look on their face, that's just priceless. And I love getting that every first session, and that's what drives me as well. So, you know, I actually had a guy last week who I saw for the first time, and the look on his face, he looked at me as if he was just like, what have you done? Like, he looked at me as if I was a witch, like I was casting a spell. So, you know, I think that once you get that, it's just easy from there. They're sold, and then that rolls on into further confidence, more confidence in their movements, they move better. And yeah, it's just a snowball effect. So I think that, as opposed to what we were doing potentially in the past, where we were really just kind of not offering these kind of people with this kind of program, is the difference between what we were doing and PD Warrior.
And I guess from a sense of professional reward, I can hear it in the language and in your story and what you're telling us. I mean, I think neuro in itself is a very professionally rewarding career for a physiotherapist. It's really life-changing. How do you feel that PD Warrior is different in that respect, or possibly even more specific? So, I mean, that's certainly what I feel, but I'd be interested in your thoughts on that too.
Yeah, and I think what we learn in the PD Warrior training and the PD Warrior course, and certainly what I've learned a lot through you, Mel, is definitely that health coaching. So I think that is something that I learned when I did the PD Warrior training, that I have certainly used across the board with my neuro patients. So that health coaching, that people, being confident and being able to self-manage to a certain extent with a bit of guidance. So yeah, I even use it with family members, and don't have kids yet, but you know, I think that'll help with them one day. So yeah, that health coaching is big in this, and also obviously the larger sort of support network that PD Warrior creates, because as we know, as that we used to say that headline, if you think it's just about the exercise, you've missed the point. So that certainly resonates with me as well. And we know that it's a much bigger and better thing than just the exercise.
Yeah, definitely. And at the licensee conference, I know you were there a couple of weeks ago, and we released our new messaging, which is the Be, Train, Live approach. And I think that comes back to if you think it's about exercise, you've missed the point, because it's very much about the psychology of accepting the diagnosis, being brave to live your best life. I think really for many people, that's the first step, is wanting to develop that control again. The second one is Train, which is the 10-week challenge, which I think is essential for anybody with Parkinson's to go through that process, that journey, learn how to move well, and be at your best. And then the third part is the Live Brave. And you must see it in your community all the time. People are living brave. They're not just turning up and doing an exercise program. It changes people in profound ways. Have you got any examples or thoughts about that?
Yeah, and just on that note, after the conference, I'm so happy and excited about that new Be, Live, Train, Live. The fact that you put live in there is just awesome. Like, I feel like I was doing that a lot, and now that it's actually in there as part of it, just makes it even more amazing. Certainly, I was trying to think just before this about a couple of standouts. I think all of my PD Warriors are standouts. They all do such a good job. They're all so committed. one lady that I was thinking of, and I mean, live can be anything from going and, you know, tackling a mountain to something as simple as being able to walk on her own without having to hold her husband. So this lady, she's probably not your typical PD warrior candidate, being the very early diagnosed, you know, high level client. She came to me who probably more of like a stage 3. She was having a few falls. She had to hold on to her husband. Posture was terrible. And I said, look, let's give it a go. Let's see how we go. Let's do some one-to-one sessions. We took her through a number of one-to-one sessions. And, you know, I said, we won't be able to go in the classes just yet, but, you know, we could work towards it. Thinking to myself, don't know how we'll go here, but let's just go for it. She's now one of the key people in our larger, high-level, intense class. She strolls on in there, leaves her husband at the door, and she hasn't had a fall since. So she's one massive standout who I just, and that for her is her live, you know, to be able to live without needing to, without fear really, without fear of having to hold on to her husband. They actually do Nordic walking as well, and she storms up the south wall without him. And yeah, so she was a really inspiring one for a lot of people. A lot of the GPs, you know, her GP particularly, just constantly, she's always, whenever I see her, I still can't believe what you've done with so-and-so. So yeah.
Well, that's great. That's excellent.
But yeah, other things, I've got a guy who has just recently returned to tennis, which he never thought he'd ever be able to do. That's huge for him. He loved his tennis. I've definitely got a few who are keen on getting back in the surf, so I'm very excited about helping them do that.
I bet you are.
Yeah, so yeah, very, very good stuff. And now with that whole live aspect in as part of Peter Warrior, I'm trying to get everyone encouraged to think about what they want to do and how we can support them.
Yeah, that's fantastic, because it really feeds into that, the living your best life is, it's 365 days of the year. It's
Yeah.
so much about getting that control back, and then constantly thinking of what are your bucket list items, what do you want to be doing. It doesn't matter how crazy anyone else thinks it is, you've got to have something that gets you out of bed every day, and you start on the first step and build to the second and third. And I love that. I love that about the program. And I love your stories. I think it you know, in PD Warrior you witness these things so often where it's so life-changing for people. So I'm so thrilled to hear about that. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Question about you go.
I was just going to say with live, I think the big message is, and this is what I've been telling my guys, is that, you know, yes, you've got a diagnosis of Parkinson's, but that doesn't mean that you can't have dreams and you can't have goals and you can't aim to climb that mountain or do, you know, obviously we can't fly, but, you know, we can try and help you get as close as you can to that, if not achieving those goals. So that's what I'm hoping to, work on with all my clients.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it?
So cool.
One question, you were talking about your lady patient and how she'd been seeing the GP. I guess one of the questions that I often get asked is, were the other health professionals skeptical about the program, or, you know, it almost seems a little too good to be true because we haven't had the tools to help people in Parkinson's for an awfully long time. This is quite a radical shift in approach. Did you experience any kickback or reticence from any of the health professionals in the area?
Not so much. Did you deal with it? I think because here in Coffs there wasn't all that much there to begin with. So I feel like all the GPs, like I did a number of talks to GPs, I just got so much positive feedback from it. I guess the occasional, there's always, and particularly in a regional area, there's always that cost factor. You know, there's always that, and my answer to that is we can't, what's the word? We can't say what people are going to prioritize in their lives. I know certainly in my life, I prioritize health. And that comes far over anything materialistic or anything else. So, you know, we can't say that people won't prioritize their health and prioritize paying for their health. Not that it's you know, we can always look at options from a financial point of view, but cost sometimes comes into it. And I really don't think it should. I think GPs and doctors need to be telling these people what's out there, regardless of what they think their financial status is like. And more often than not, people will pay the money to do what's going to get the best outcomes. So I'm not saying that, you know, PDWR is exceptionally expensive or anything like that. I'm saying compared to a free service, you know, a public service, which you're just not going to get the same results. So that's one kickback that we sometimes get, particularly in a regional area. But otherwise, I feel like everyone has been so unbelievably supportive of it, because it's a no-brainer, really. You know, medications have their side effects and all of that. Why not introduce exercise as well as medication and get the double benefit? You're not going to harm anything else.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
No, it's a good point, and I think certainly we take your point on price. I think we have no idea what patients will and won't prioritise in their health, their control, their ability to live the best life that they can. So thank you. I guess my final question to you is what's the biggest lesson that you've learned from PD Warrior? I know that you've taken some of the skills and you've applied those across treating other conditions, but is there one single take-home message or a message to other people, health professionals, considering doing the course or taking on the license?
Yeah, I mean, I've learned heaps of things from PD Warrior, as you know. I think probably something that resonates most is that it is a shift from how we probably used to treat not only people with Parkinson's, but a lot of our neuro clients, in that we used to wrap them in cotton wool a little bit and not push them to the point of improvement and making changes. So I think that's something that when I was first introduced to PD Warrior and into a different way of looking at neuro, I certainly started to treat clients with a little bit more, you know, pushing them, complexity, challenge, all of that sort of stuff. And you do see the results. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things. Again, as I said, with the health coaching, I find that absolutely so valuable across the board with my neuro clients. I think, probably just really I've taken away from working with PD Warrior my passion and love for neurophysio again. Like, it keeps me going too. And I think that's important as therapists. We can't become complacent and we can't become bored or not enjoying what we're doing, because then we're not going to be getting the best out of our clients as well. So I think my clients get the benefit, I get the benefit, you know, and everyone's happy at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I guess we're going to be hearing about the next PD Warrior Surf Retreat up in Coffs Harbour.
I was just going to say, let's stay on the line. I need to chat to you about that.
All right, well, we'll let everyone else go. But thank you so much for your time, Amanda. It's been lovely to chat with you. Always a pleasure. And we'll chat to you again soon.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.
Bye.